it has been a little bit harder to try to do research on the teams, at least from my perspective. Maybe I should just stop making excuses and find a way to get it done. But just the way the Heroes Lounge website is laid out does make it a little bit easier to see, just to see the data on map picks, hero picks, things like that. And I'm sure those things can be found in NGS, but we're also at a point in the NGS season that there isn't a whole lot of data to go by. Now, both of these teams, though, are pre-existing teams. They both, I'm pretty sure, in fact, I know 100% that Roll1 Esports has already been playing in the previous season of Heroes Lounge because I already cast them twice in the Legendary Cup. I think the members of Abba Murky Cult were also playing in the season of Heroes Lounge, which is actually still going. I don't even remember if I've already cast them before. It's definitely a possibility. So, although I don't have any like raw statistics, like actually throw real numbers at you as opposed to, like made up imaginary ones that don't exist, I do know just a little bit at least about Roll1 Esports since I did cast them 2 times fairly recently. I've seen their players, I know what some of their picks are. 2 of the power picks out of Roll1 Esports are the Garrosh for RockYourWorld and the Kalthas for Poe. Those are 2 both very commonly played heroes for them, and in particular I saw especially RockYourWorld do a lot of great things on that Garrosh. Now, we're going to start out with a tank choke from both teams, and this does have me worried. There are some times when I do see tank chokes in draft. There was the first time I ever cast a Div 1 game in Heroes Lounge, so a focus on just choking out the tank choices so that whichever team hesitates a little too much on picking up their tanks eventually finds himself with very, very limited choices. Okay, but it doesn't look like the second bans from the first ban phase will be focused on the tanks. The Zul ban does come in rather predictably. Some people saying, he's been nerfed, he's been fixed. But it does still seem like, just with the recent patch, with the recent round of changes, that sometimes people still don't really want to deal with the Zul. Can still be rather strong in that solo lane. Meanwhile, the Greymane ban is, for one, it's just a ban on a potential race pick on Towers of Doom. Sorry, I meant Battlefield of Eternity. And for all I know, could be some kind of comfort pick, since Greymane is a pretty ubiquitous hero all-time in Heroes of the Storm. But let's actually move on and start talking about some of the picks we do have. RockYourWorld, not going for that Garrosh that I was kind of gassing him up to have, but locking in that tank pick early to make sure that he does not find himself getting choked out on tanks, which is still a possibility that could happen against the members of the Abba Murky Cult. Now, Abba Murky Cult eventually went for the Li Ming Ana pick. Obviously, that has synergy with each other. The Ana giving the nano boost to Li Ming. Very, very powerful considering Li Ming is already pretty good on this map. She is good at dealing with the objective, not necessarily because of her DPS, not how fast she can race, but because of the fact that she can shoot the Immortal from a distance, sometimes from relatively safe places, such as where the Bruiser camp is. She can shoot through the walls, and it can be a little bit harder to punish her there unless you have someone who's actually willing to take the risk of jumping over the wall. So, meanwhile, on the side of Roll1 Esports, we do indeed see that Kalthas power pick, very, very much the comfort pick by Poe, and arguably of this entire team, since Poe does, I think in the season of Heroes Lounge, I think that was literally their #1 pick, not just for Poe as a player, but for their entire team. Okay, Kalthas and the Hanzo will be banned out, so we haven't really seen a race hero picked up in the sense of one that burns down the Immortal quickly, and 2 of those options have already been taken down. That primarily leaves, well, I was going to say 2 left, but there is actually more than 2. The Rainer and the Vala would be 2 of those choices. Lunar is kind of one of those, since she does have Nature's Calling, which is something that does make her very effective against the Immortal, but I do feel that Lunar is, in general, kind of a questionable pick, so I wouldn't actually recommend that. And actually, they won't. The members of Abba Murky Cult not exactly really picking up a strong racing hero pretty much at all. I think if we see either the Vala or the Rainer picked up by the members of Roll1 Esports, I think they pretty much win the race by default. Now, there certainly is a lot of poking potential on the side of Abba Murky Cult. Junkrat actually working kind of similarly to Li Ming, in that he can poke it down from a distance with those grenades. And then on the side of Roll1 Esports, they kind of have to make the choice of either do they let that damage go through or do they body block it at the expense of their own health. Ooh, okay, just kidding. So there is a racing hero eventually picked up. I will say it's one that I personally disapprove of quite a bit. I don't believe in Artanis. Of course, it is often just a known fact that with the amateur opponent talent at level 1, he does do quite a bit of damage to the Immortal, which does make him a good racing hero. I just don't feel that it's enough to really justify picking him in any case when you think of just all the other ways in which the hero can be a liability, and in which there are just so many other stronger choices. So when I look at these drafts, it's kind of tough. I would say I don't have a 100% vote of confidence for either of these drafts, and that's just the truth here. And at first I was going to say that the members of Roll1 Esports would have the better race, but then when the Artanis pick actually came in, then that actually became not the case, and now the race is actually a little bit tough to call between the two teams. If anything, I might actually give a slight advantage in the race to the members of the Murky cult. But before we talk any more about race, let's just take a look, introduce our teams right here, as well as bring up our talent bars. On the left side, the Murky cult. We are going to have Doberman on the Garrosh, Majinnee, however you say his name, on the Ana, Akash. All names I'm not 100% sure if I'm saying correctly. On the Li Ming, creeperzbot will be on that is the Junkrat. I almost got confused and almost said it was the Gazlo. And HellFire will be on the Artanis. Meanwhile, on the side of Roll1 Esports, it will be RockYourWorld on the ETC. Zad will be playing Lunara. Poe will be playing Kalthas. Juanebo on the Malfurion. And finally, it will be BigBeard on the... I don't know why I'm having these long pauses where I just forget the name of a hero, but it will be the Rexar. So there are definitely things that I'm critical about on both sides of these drafts. Now, I would say I do think race is actually going to be a bit favored for the members of Murky cult, since aside from picking up the Artanis, that's a lot of damage coming out of your bruiser player. And they still have two ranged assassins who are going to be doing a decent amount of damage as well. Not as much as perhaps the Lunara by herself would, but I think the combination of the Li Ming, the Junkrat, and the Artanis will outrace the Kalthas and the Lunara. But, I mean, there are just a lot of liabilities to picking Artanis as a hero, and why historically, certainly at the highest level of professional play, he is very rare. Even in, like, Div S level play, he's pretty rare. You do see him more often in divisions that basically aren't, like, the very, very top divisions. There are a lot of people who are just kind of comfortable with him. Doberman potentially in a rough position, having to walk through some flame strikes. Now he's finding himself having to go through a route, and he does manage to heal himself up just barely, and we have some Garrosh things. Just one of those times where you look at Garrosh and just can't imagine how did Garrosh survive there. And it's really just Garrosh things. Like, that should literally be the meme itself. Just Garrosh things. Just historically, that armor trait for him. Just putting him in so many situations where it looks like any other hero in the game would die. Any other hero. But not Garrosh, because of the way that his armor increases the lower he gets in health. Okay, Zad will be thrown over by Doberman, but Doberman's about to spread the bomb. He does spread the bomb to creeperzbot, which I don't think is a hero he wants to spread the bomb to. Junkrat with such a low baseline health pool. Now, certainly if there is an advantage to Artanis on this map, he can take this, of course, by himself with the amateur opponent talent. Should be able to outduel most of the heroes who would try to be able to stop him there. But we're going to see BigBeard is going to try to contest it, and we're going to see how well this works out. Those look like HellFire is trying to see if he can focus on Rexar himself rather than just Misha. And it does look like BigBeard might actually... Okay, I think HellFire is preparing for a swap. Okay, stun happens. HellFire is still there, though. The support for HellFire is there, and that should be enough to actually secure the camp in favor of the members of the Murky cult. Yeah, especially with Akash coming in on the back line, and that's just going to be the rotation that should finish off BigBeard. They tried to rotate to save BigBeard, but it didn't happen. And that will be first kill of the game, going in favor of the Murky cult. Camps have been picked up on both sides. The Bruiser camp for the members of Roll1 Esports, as well as the Siege camp picked up by the Murky cult. Of course, we do see some clear coming in from the members of the Murky cult. Kind of just thinking with the way the Bruiser camp continually respawns those tigers or dogs or whatever they are, that they will need to do that. RockYourWorld is by himself, but he is able to power slide out of there. The Immortal race at the moment going a bit in favor of... How does this work? Going a bit in favor of the members of the Murky cult. Okay, they will absolutely clear it out first. RockYourWorld seeing if he can try to delay them. But he is unsuccessful. He actually needs to be real careful here. He does get swapped. He does not have a power slide. He does have a face melt, but I don't think that will be enough. Especially he keeps on getting put into a disadvantageous position. And I think at this point it really just needs to be die and get to respawn for the defense. So the Immortal will be pushing, but there will be, I guess, only HellFire on Artanis here to push alongside the Immortal. So in that case, it does look like the members of the Murky cult will be looking to push down the bottom lane. Those tower changes, which I was briefly discussing a bit with RockYourWorld as we were getting into this game. Tower changes seeming to be, after the recent changes in the patches, do seem to be a little bit less oppressive than they were just about a week ago or so, or just when that last patch hit. The one before the one that came out today, that is. Or did it even come out today? I forget. All right, but that does mean with that push, I think they have, both front walls down. Zad is low, but HellFire is the one who's really in a precarious position. I think Zad can actually... Oh, he's being cautious because he doesn't want to get... Yeah, I think he's actually right to be cautious there because it very much is in HellFire's ability to actually trade out that kill, getting a dash from the Twin Blades. Is it actually called Twin Blades? Because that's a variant thing. It's called Twin Blades. It's one of the few instances where there's a kind of a shared name in this game. Kind of like with Hanzo and Uther both having redemption, but obviously being entirely different things. So Artanis, I mean, although I definitely talked down Artanis, we're definitely seeing some of the value that Artanis can get on this map with amateur opponent. Aside from the value he gets against the Immortal, he can solo a lot of camps, even soloing the Bruiser camp by himself. That's what solo means. Kind of redundant phrasing. And that does mean that they will pick up the Bruiser camp. Oh, it looks like he's waiting to try to time it perfectly. Akash going to be hearthing back to get mana for the objective. Oh, creeperzbot not in a good position. Okay, doesn't really get punished for it. Oh, that was a brush with death right there. I think, although... I mean, that was a combination of many things. That was RockYourWorld not quite capitalizing on the opportunity. creeperzbot reacting just fast enough. Like, if he was any slower there, the power slide probably would have been enough to finish them. And they're actually fighting over the Blue Immortal. So this does mean this is damage. Oh, but Artanis is on the other side. And just with the amateur opponent, he is winning the race. Members of Murky cult very much trying to prove me wrong here with how I personally downplayed the usefulness of Artanis. Doberman is so low, though, but just Garrosh thinks he's getting out alive with just barely any health. He's got 40 armor at the moment. Do manage to get a kill, but only on the Misha. All right, so halftime will be called, and it's still... Yeah, the members of... So in the end, I am kind of wrong, or at least not wrong, but definitely certainly the Immortal race just on paper at this point clearly goes in favor of the members of the Murky cult. Members of Roll1 Esports need to be looking to win a team fight, and they're in a position now where very soon they're going to be at a level 10 talent tier disadvantage. And if they don't get a kill really, really soon, that pretty much guarantees... Okay, still not... They're going for the Garrosh. Oh, what a beautiful timing on the Indomitable. Oh, man. They're just trying to get the Garrosh kill, but the heal's just keeping him up every time with that ridiculous armor trait. And finally, we see the nano boost committed. Members of Roll1 Esports don't have level 10. Rexar is caught. He will be taken out. Now it's just a matter of can Zad and RockYourWorld get out. I think they do, unless they play with fire here. I think at this point, I don't actually like them even staying in here. I think it really just needs to be Oh, RockYourWorld is actually going to be taken out. Yeah, I think at that point, once BigBeard was killed, I think it was incredibly important that at that time they simply cut their losses, split off to the lanes, and just get level 10 immediately. Because although they will get level 10 in time for the Immortal defense, they are now over a level behind in experience. So that full level behind in experience is going to make life pretty rough for them. They at least have even talent tiers. Zad will be trying to push down this Immortal. He does have Nature's Culling, which is just the PvE trait for Lunar that does make her good for burning down the Immortal. But unfortunately, at this point, since we've pretty much figured out, both just by looking at the draft and seeing it in effect, that pretty much... I thought Zad was going to get swapped there after getting stunned. We've seen that pretty much... Ooh, Rexar gets killed again. We've seen that pretty much the members of Roll1 Esports, their composition does not win the Immortal race, so they need to take the team fights. They need to get those kills first. And unfortunately, it's not quite happening in their favor just yet. In fact, we are at 5-0, so members of Roll1 Esports not with a single kill on the board yet. And, you know, as I tried to talk about kind of what are the limitations of that Artanis, he doesn't really have the best team fight potential, and certainly if you're ever in a situation where you are losing the team fight, pretty much Artanis does not get out. But I do like this potential invade. They will be invading with 4. Just kidding, they don't get the invade in time. They even had 5, not 4, committed to that invade. And of course, they could have won it against just 2, but they were ultimately just too late. So this game is pretty quickly spiraled out of control for the members of Roll1 Esports. They're now at a position where they are down level 13 talent tier. They're basically just in a position where they just have to soak the waves. And even things like, I feel like the ETC here could be punished, but instead, oh, okay, that will just be Misha. I only moved back to the screen and just saw that someone was hit away by the concussion mine. Chattering teeth, chasing Redbeard around. I actually think... I didn't like that. Actually, no, I don't think it matters. I was going to say leave the chattering teeth around in bottom, but then I'm pretty sure Junkrat can always just cast new ones if he wants. Okay, HellFire will be working on the Immortal. Already has about 2,000 hit points taken off the Immortal. And now they will be moving in as a team. So they are going to be fighting over the Immortal. This probably is the best case scenario for Roll1 Esports, but most of their efforts have been focusing on trying to kill Doberman. And because Doberman is Garrosh and he has that armor trait, he's just been able to weather the storm every time. There have been so many times when he's gotten so close to dying, but then it just doesn't happen. Okay, once again, damage goes in onto Doberman, but it's not going to be enough. Doberman just continues to walk around. He weathers the storm. I think... Oh, Zad just gets out of there just barely. Nice play by Zad. Okay, I think we are finally going to have a kill by the members of Roll1 Esports, but it will be traded out against RockYourWorld's ETC. At that point, the Pyroblast is pretty much overkill, but it secures it nevertheless. Unfortunately, they still end up losing the objective. I don't know if Redbeard even gets out of here. He does not. He's just blown up by Akash. Or maybe it's Akash. I'm not sure how to pronounce that name. So it really has been the members of Abba Murky Cult in the driver's seat this whole time. They're trying to prep this bottom lane. Probably seeing if they can get most of... But there is the mosh pit attempt, but of course instantly interrupted by the wave of force. However, Living Bomb is passed. Creepers does go down on that Junkrat. HellFire is low. Akash trying to come back in here. Does get another hit on Poe, but HellFire, as we see, once the fight starts going against... Okay, HellFire is able to walk out, but he's so low in hit points. Does get some help from Majinnee or Majinnee. However you say that name. I do think... Majinnee probably has been one of the MVPs, arguably the MVP in this game. The heals just always coming in at the right time from Majinnee to keep the members of Abba Murky Cult alive. Alright, so that will be the fort, rather the keep, taken down in the bottom lane by the Immortal from the members of Abba Murky Cult. It will eventually be cleared before it does get any permanent core damage, but certainly this is not looking like a strong position at all for the members of Roll1 Esports. They've been starting to manage a few kills, particularly with that Pyroblast, getting that overkill on that Garrosh. But I think at this point, given that they've got the Pyroblast, if anything, I think Pyroblast... I mean, what I wanted to try to lead up to earlier is... I hate to be that person who just goes, don't focus the tank, because you've seen it all so many times in ranked where there's people like, don't focus the tank. And even at times when it's the wrong advice. But unfortunately, this really does seem to be a time when focusing the tank really is creating problems for the members of Roll1 Esports. Because between the Lunara and the Kel'Thas, they just aren't really getting through that Garrosh armor most of the time. The only time they're getting through that Garrosh armor is after having the Pyroblast. And at this point, I think it might be worth shifting their strategy. Pyroblast might be better used on creeperzbot, as long as they can get creeperzbot low enough. Basically, let's take a look at the current damage of Pyroblast. So about 1,700. And creeperzbot has about, I think, 2,700. Let's even check that. Yes, about closer to 2,800, actually. So if they can get him down to basically about 60% of their health, Akash is also actually arguably a... No, Akash actually wouldn't be such a good choice because he does have Force Armor, which would cut the damage of the Pyroblast in half. So it would definitely be Junkrat who would be the best target for the Pyroblast. And also just seeing, aside from the Junkrat, seeing if the ETC can maybe get on someone else other than the Garrosh. I know it's kind of tough, but seeing if he can get in on Majinnee might be the play. Majinnee, I think, would be the most vulnerable target because certainly taking out Doberman has really made, at least attempting to take out Doberman has really made things tough. Okay, members of Abba Murky Cult already get the lead and the initiative on the Immortal. Finally, Doberman is caught. Pyroblast will... Okay, you know what? They're just going to completely... They're just really actually going to go all in on killing Doberman and using the Pyroblast to make sure that actually happens. Not wanting to deal with this rough question of how do we get past Garrosh, just go straight through him. But they need someone on the Immortal. Okay, they're going to bring it to halftime. I was going to say, they needed someone on the Immortal. They still need someone on the Immortal. Because they can't let HellFire just wail on it. Okay, Mosh Pit happens on to Artanis, but it does get interrupted. Just so many easy interrupts by the members of Abba Murky Cult. Zad is low. He's going to need some heals, but there is a silence. Big Li-Ming shots will miss, and it will be Anna who does eventually go down. Artanis goes down as well, and this is the break that the members of Roll1 Esports really, really needed to stay in this game. But I think they need... Oh, no! I can't believe that just happened. I was going to say, I think they need ETC here to continue to block the shots. They need Juanebo here to make sure that ETC gets healing. But I wasn't expecting him to just get blown up just like that. And in the end, I don't even think the members of Roll1 Esports get this Immortal either. Unfortunately, just there's so much poke damage coming out of the members of Abba Murky Cult. So I think initially I didn't like the fact that they basically got two mages and didn't get like a traditional auto attack assassin that would be good for race. But I see the way it's working out. When they have two of them, there's just so much poke damage that they will get Immortal damage from a distance, and the members of Roll1 Esports would have just no choice but to try to body block it, and we see that that did not work out very well for RockYourWorld. RockYourWorld going in close. He's going to be looking for Akash. Akash is actually super low, and they do find the kill. That's exactly what they needed. They're going to see if they can get Doberman as well. Riptire comes out, but it's not enough. Doberman's still low, but Zad somehow got in a bad position. I think maybe a little bit too aggressive with those leaping strikes. Unfortunately, losing Zad. The kill on Li-Ming was exactly what they needed, and losing Zad was exactly what they didn't need. Like, this is actually still very, very troublesome for the members of Roll1 Esports. Poe gets thrown over, but no taunt or even a Warbreaker to follow it up. Garrosh is really low. Doberman's low, but HellFire is in there. We're going to see another Pyroblast go in. Doesn't look like HellFire has the spell armor that you can get, but it doesn't really matter because the core doesn't have any spell armor either, and it will be taken down, and that will be the first game going in favor of the members of the ABBA Murky cult. Oh, actually, I didn't want to take a look at me. I wanted us to take a look at our match summary for this game. In the end, the kills actually being relatively even, but of course, just from watching that game, we did see that for most of that game, the members of the ABBA Murky cult were just in control most of that game. And their draft, you know, I actually really can't fault them in terms of the damage they brought to bear against the Immortal. Getting the Artanis as actually kind of your primary race does actually free you up for both of your ranged assassins to be long-ranged poke assassins. Or for the teams, it really makes almost no difference. But for a caster, it honestly does make things just so much easier. But let's move on from that, and let's just move on into our draft for game number 2 of this series. So for game number 2 of this series, first pick going to the members of ABBA Murky Cult, since the members of Roll1 Esports did elect for map pick, and they will be taking out the Mal'Ganis. Mal'Ganis is interesting. I mean, Mal'Ganis I do think is a pretty strong tank, but I haven't actually seen it that much out of RockYourWorld. I've seen him play quite a few other things. Obviously, the ETC. Garrosh is something I do feel that he's rather strong on as well. All right, then the Diablo ban again. So Diablo not going to take any part of this series, or at least not these first 2 games. For all we know, members of Roll1 Esports could actually win this game, force a 3rd game, and then maybe someone does pick up Diablo. And the ETC will be banned. I think it makes it extremely likely now that RockYourWorld does go for the Garrosh. Since, I mean, obviously the ETC was something that he felt was so important that he needed to first pick last game. Last game, however, we also saw perhaps some of the weaknesses of first picking ETC. There was absolutely no shortage of mosh interrupts on the side of the members of ABBA Murky Cult, but I also think there's a decent chance that they didn't pick those heroes specifically as mosh interrupts, and probably they actually just wanted a lot of those heroes to begin with. Things like the Junkrat, the Li Ming, the Ana, all very strong mosh interrupts. Relatively low cooldowns on long-range abilities from heroes who should be positioned far away from ETC. And indeed, I don't think we ever really saw a good mosh come out from your RockYourWorld. It was just interrupted every time. So, indeed, we will see the Garrosh picked up. Just feel that, I mean, aside from the ETC, that's probably RockYourWorld's strongest hero. At least it's, from what I've seen of them so far, it does seem to be a preference. The Kael'thas pick out of Poe is no surprise at all. It's just something they pick up so much that, if anything, I'm slightly not surprised that it's not banned out against them more often, but perhaps it's also rightly recognized as not necessarily a huge threat in terms of just what hero it is. Okay, Majinnee will be picking up the Stukov, and the Johanna will be picked up by Doberman. Now, at least one thing to consider about this Stukov is that it is a cleanseless healer, and this does make things a little bit tricky. Certainly, I think Stukov going to have a harder time saving a target if anyone does get actually thrown by RockYourWorld. And RockYourWorld does like to be pretty aggressive, rotating through the bushes with this Garrosh, aggressively looking for picks. And we'll see what BigBeard picks up. The Rexar is still up, which is obviously a strong choice on this map. In another series, I saw a really great use of Yrel against Azul on Dragonshire, and that worked out very well since Yrel has a lot of ability to control both the wave and the shrine, since she can use Avenging Wrath to quickly go back and forth between them. And she also has a talent called Hand of Freedom, which allows her to just instantly self-cleanse the Zul root. So it's I don't know if that's actually something that BigBeard plays, but just something that I noticed recently as a pretty nice answer, at least with the way it was played in that series that I watched. Of course, everything can change depending on, you know, just the skill of our players, how things are played out in this particular game. So Greymane and the Lucio banned out. And it will be... Oh my! We are going to see the Tassadar and the Anduin. The Tassadar. And the Tassadar... No. I'm just going to throw a big no. No more Artanis. Like, I don't even believe in Artanis on Battlefield of Eternity, but unfortunately HellFire really, really made me have to shut up. If there's one thing that does make me consider that Artanis is a possibility, it's that last game it was HellFire played Artanis, and he would be the solo lane player, but as we see here, he will be going for the Medivh. I don't believe in Artanis. It's just a personal thing of mine. I don't believe in Artanis. Unfortunately, he did get a lot of value in the last game, so it's hard for me to make that point. But anyway, let's see what this final pick will be coming out of BigBeard. Is it going to be the Rexar? No, going to be the Leo. Okay. Now, interestingly, one little thing I've noticed about the Leo is sometimes I don't always think of it this way, but if you think about it, Wraithwalk is a self-cleanse. So if you do get hit by Bone Prison, if you activate Wraithwalk, you will just self-cleanse it. Sometimes I just find, though, in my newfound enthusiasm for, recognize it, wow, Wraithwalk, self-cleanse, recognizing just to be a little bit careful of that if you use it just to self-cleanse and then find yourself where you in a situation where you actually need it for mobility and now it's on cooldown, it can kind of screw you over. So kind of got to be a little bit careful because of that. Now, the draft from Abba Murky Cult is interesting. Of course, Medivh is something that always just something that adds a little chaos into things. Not exactly a super common pick. I don't feel it's something that people often play, but we'll talk more a little bit about the implications of Medivh after we introduce our teams. So on the left side of the map, it will be the members of the Abba Murky Cult. Majinnee will be playing the Stukov. creeperzbot will be playing the Rainer. Doberman on the Johanna. Jobber or Jabber? I'm trying to look. That's an O. Jobber will be playing as the Rexar. No, that's Zul. And finally, someone's going to be playing Medivh. It's going to be HellFire. Meanwhile, on the other side of things, let's try to do a little bit of a better job. RockYourWorld will be playing the Garrosh. BigBeard will be playing Leoric. Poe on Kel'Thas. Zad on Tassadar. And Juanebo on the Anduin. But meanwhile, things are already happening. We are going to have a Bone Prison on RockYourWorld, but he does get pulled out by Leap of Faith. So obviously the implications of Medivh are, if anything, a little bit tough for my plat and gold brain to wrap my head around. But you know, when I just think of Medivh is something that can really allow for very fast rotations if it's used for mobility. Obviously, it's also an answer to the Garrosh. Something, you know, I kind of talked before. Wow, Doberman actually almost getting killed by that. I had talked before about how the Stukov is a cleanseless healer, and if a target is thrown by the Garrosh, it's actually very, very difficult for Stukov to really do something about that. So I guess the Medivh could be like a response to the Garrosh. Something to just really nullify the value that he gets by just making so that whenever he does throw someone, that target is protected and then gets a portal on out of there. So we'll also be keeping an eye on those stacks. Already 10 for the Arcane Rift, 1.5 minutes into the game. I think that seems like pretty good to me. Oh, but here's the invade coming out by Roll1 Esports. creeperzbot was doing this alone, and it will be a successful invade. Doberman's here by himself. He does have a living bomb on him. He's trying to be more aggressive, but... Oh, he's thrown in now that that Iron Skin is on cooldown. He is being silenced. There is no portal for him, but RockYourWorld is the one who's really, really low. They will go through a portal to try to continue to trace RockYourWorld. And that hold your ground out of Johanna ending up being very, very important. Multiple times there. Oh, God. I don't think Doberman has hold your ground this time, though. Or rather, Iron Skin. I'm actually really, really surprised that they did not pick up the kill. On Doberman there. Because he for sure that time did not have Iron Skin. Doberman has actually been really, really aggressive playing as Johanna with those iron skins, really counting on the reduced cooldown that comes out of Hold Your Ground. Now let's take a look, as I take a look in the chat, and we take a look at Pursued by Grace by Anduin. For some reason, I'm struggling to find the healer. I don't know. Unfortunately, I'm not enough of an Anduin specialist. These days, I definitely don't, at least personally when I play Anduin, I don't go for the bold strategy. Back when that was only a 1-second CDR, I would always go that. Usually these days, I definitely go for whatever the third talent is, the one that just gives Anduin self-healing whenever you use Q. Not doing too well with the names of things, but I'm taking a look in chat, getting a little distracted. We do have the channel by the members of Roll1 Esports. However, it doesn't look like they'll be able to keep that for very long, with BigBeard getting rotated on by 3 members. However, with that rotation, that's such a big pickup. They did get the kill on Medivh, resetting his stacks. I didn't see how many he was at that point, but it's still just important that they got that reset, and he's starting all over at 0, 4 minutes into this game. Now, as some people did point it out, the unrivaled strength, since this is, I think, the 3rd time that I have cast Roll1 Esports, RockYourWorld very consistently likes to go for that unrivaled strength, which it has struck me as a little bit odd personally, but he just very, very consistently goes for it. Normally, I think of, obviously, the standard talent is the Warbreaker. Technically, I believe the Warbreaker, the Groundbreaker quest, especially because the default range of both... Oh, no. All right, I think he'll get out of there. The default range of both Wrecking Ball as well as Groundbreaker have a lot of synergy with each other. They just line up perfectly. Whereas if you go for this unrivaled strength with... if you go for this unrivaled strength that RockYourWorld has, sometimes it can be a little bit harder to get your combos correct. You might actually mess up a bit. However, it looks like RockYourWorld just plays it in a different way. He even delayed the use of the Groundbreaker right there. So, the members of Roll1 Esports definitely having a better time of it in this game. You know, between so many different things, obviously they've got the lead in kills with 1 whole kill, but they've also gotten the first objective. They're getting more siege damage done. And of course, there is just that stack reset on HellFire. Okay, siege camps will be picked up by both teams here. HellFire will be looking in. I don't think he's looking for an invade. I think he's just looking in to get the vision, just so he knows. Kind of just confirming what they probably already knew. I mean, at that point, if you're on your siege camp, you can probably just... And you don't... Oh, but Doberman gets thrown in yet again. Of course, the Iron Skin is there. I think it happened even before the Groundbreaker went out. Meanwhile, what's going on in our solo lane? Never show solo lane. These players, unsung heroes, doing so many important things. BigBeard is content to just take the route there, knowing that he's not going to take too much damage from Jobber. Doesn't need to use the Wraithwalk to get the self-cleanse. We're talking about some other stacks. We also have about a third of the way, if my mathing is correct. A little bit more than a third of the way towards the static charge for Zad. Okay, this doesn't seem like a good engagement for Roll1 Esports. I think they will be able to get the disengage. RockYourWorld, he went in kind of again. Oh, but there is the black hole, followed up by an Entomb. There is a kill onto Medivh. Oh no, that means Medivh losing his stacks again. All right, members of Roll1 Esports get everyone out alive with pretty good timing. And oh man, this is really just like a rest in pepperoni stacks game. Second time now that HellFire has died, and it's so rough considering, I mean, Medivh, he has so many survivability mechanics. You've got the Protected, by the way, you've got the Portal, and it's also just so important that if you are going to run the Medivh, you actually get the stacks. So, looks like those towers, or rather those forts, whatever, the structures aren't quite as threatening as they used to be just until they were recently updated. As we did see just the way Roll1 Esports was able to push onto that. Another throw will go in. Don't know about that Groundbreaker, though. We're going to see the... Iron Skin used yet again, but there is a taunt on Stukov. Can they finish off the Stukov? RockYourWorld is so low. He's trapped behind a force wall. I think they do finish off Stukov right here. It's so close! And they don't. RockYourWorld is trying to... Oh! I can't believe that actually happened. He actually got a groundbreaker kill from throwing someone else onto him. Not a groundbreaker, a wrecking ball kill. Did end up losing his life for it. Juanebo, get the interrupt. Oh, Poe doesn't get it. Went up to support them. Actually, I'm not... Well, no, I think Poe would have gotten that. So Juanebo not stalling out that bottom shrine. So we won't see our second Dragonite picked up just yet. Alright, Doberman will get locked out. The door has been closed. He's so low on hit points. He needs to be careful here. I mean, he's certainly playing a whole lot around the Iron Skin of Johanna. But certainly we've got... just the way the members of Roll1 Esports, they're definitely playing just so much better this game. Fort does finally go down, that one in the bottom. Wasn't going to take much. They're going to be looking for an invade here, I think. So 4 kills to 1 at the moment. It still feels like at times kills are coming in rather slowly, and that might just be the consequence of yet again. We see another double mage draft. This one, but what's going to go on right here? I think this one might not go so well. There is a leyline seal. And this time it will be Kael'thas who goes down. The Warlord's Challenge is used too, but I don't think that he's able to get out of there. Attempted Leap of Faith is not in time, and that will be kills finally coming in. Can they get Juanebo as well? I don't know about that massive shove. But the double mage play out of the members of Roll1 Esports, I feel it does result in some occasions where you are seeing heroes that are just barely making it out alive with only like about a tenth of their hit points because all the abilities are just on cooldown. Okay, shrines will be picked up by the members of the Abba Murky cult, but there will be people here that can interrupt. However, Zad is right next to Johanna. We'll use a force wall to just kind of scare Johanna off. RockYourWorld is here as well. So we just have a 4v4 in the middle. There is a groundbreaker. But they can't, if they just back up, eventually it will be taken. We do have Poe throwing down the flame strikes, but we need something else there. Okay. Phoenix will zone them out further, but Blessed Shield also goes in. Unfortunately, the Light Bomb does kind of go to waste there. A little bit of miscommunication between our Anduin player and whoever received the Light Bomb, kind of walking away while they had the Light Bomb. There is also a black hole, but the first kill finally does come in on the Garrosh. Top Shrine was eventually picked up by Redbeard. Redbeard, sorry, that's someone else that I know. BigBeard. But BigBeard, is taking a huge amount of damage. He needs to get out of here. I'm not actually sure he makes it out alive. There's no way he does. And we get a kill with the massive shove that time. Okay, 2 kills for the Abba Murky cult, despite the fact that they aren't playing Abathur or Murky. What heresy is this? All right, Doberman goes in for another 2 or 3-man condemn, but I don't think there will be anyone here to interrupt the Dragonite pickup by our Rainer player. Who is it on the Rainer? I forget. Let's just take a quick look like this. This is going to be creeperzbot on the Rainer. Okay, we are going to see someone here in quite a bit of trouble. Johanna will be taken down. Taunt, follow-up damage does result in her going down. Was not able to get in through the portal. Could make things a little bit harder to push for this Dragonite. BigBeard is actually here for the assistance. Now, BigBeard is going for an auto-attack Leoric build. We do see the Spectral Leech at level 13. Does almost invariably mean that we will see Mithril Mace picked up at level 16, just with the inherent synergy that those two talents have. And, yeah, I mean, in the end, we actually see not a huge amount of value coming out of this Dragonite. A lot of it mitigated because of that Johanna kill. So, that's why we do see Jobber looking to see where he can pick up value elsewhere, which does result a lot out of the fact that we did have BigBeard rotate out of the top lane. Just kidding, BigBeard's back. He uses the Entomb, but I don't think he will succeed in getting a kill against Jobber. Jobber is already restoring some of his health. We do have a full Curse Strikes build out of Leoric, and out of Zool. And while I'm droning on about that, Poe is in a huge amount of trouble, but living bombs are being spread. It's not going to be enough to save Poe, though. And meanwhile, oh, Juanebo. Juanebo, I think this is you just die as fast as you can. Yeah, Majinnee actually needs to be careful there. He almost went down. All right, then. In the end, it's still a structure advantage in favor of the members of Roll1 Esports, but now more kills have gone in favor of ABBA Murky Cult, and they do have an advantage in kills. That advantage in kills has given them the advantage in experience. Does mean they're very, very likely to make it to level 20 first, and definitely, probably, almost definitely, most likely, find themselves in a position where they will have level 20 talent tier advantage at some point that they will be able to exploit. Groundbreaker does go out. Doberman getting close, taking a lot of damage. Do you see the percent damage on the shock ray picked up by Zad? Probably partly responsible for that damage that was taken by Doberman there. Just a big fat chunk taken out of his health. But some big fat chunks being taken out of RockYourWorld's health. Unfortunately, this is some of the liabilities of Garrosh, where sometimes when you're just trying to walk straight up, you're just like a big punching bag. But RockYourWorld, fortunately getting trapped by that leyline seal. And oh, you know, we do have kind of a redemption arc for HellFire as well. Died twice, lost stacks twice, and now he's fully stacked and his team is in the lead. So although that might have been an issue early on, at this point I think it's a moot point. Members of ABBA Murky Cult were actually able to retake control of this game. Stukov will get the shrine by himself. Does need to be a little bit careful about that. I think I would rather see someone like Medivh take the shrine by himself. But in the end, I guess it doesn't really matter. And now we also have a structural advantage for the members of the ABBA Murky Cult. And again, that we also have the impending level 20 talent tier advantage. Should be just about in time for Jobber to be revived on the Zool. And then at that point, obviously, they've got a lot of options. They can just force a team fight. They can do an invade. They can just take down this fort, just because they can. And that will be all forts taken down by the ABBA Murky Cult. Only keep standing in their way, so they are going to have lane pressure in the top and the middle lane. But they've got this level 20 talent tier advantage for a decent amount of time, and I want to see them take advantage of it. So this is definitely one way they take advantage of it, getting an invade on the Bruiser camp that would otherwise be, you know, it's on the side of the map for the members of Roll1 Esports. Okay. Oh, wow, he didn't go for Jobber. I'm really surprised. Okay, finally he does throw in Jobber. I thought that was a perfect opportunity to just get the kill on Jobber. But meanwhile, RockYourWorld is so low himself. Oh, no. And Poe does go down. Entomb at this point does nothing. I was a little disappointed to see that. Okay, finally Jobber does go down, but messy fight all around. Jobber just kind of face-checked that bush, and I thought we were just going to see an instant throw by RockYourWorld there to try to just quickly take care of Jobber. Was a little disappointed to not see it happen, because, I mean, they practically kissed there. Like, Jobber just walked into that bush, and the throw didn't quite happen as soon as I thought it would. And this should be another Dragon Knight picked up. Okay, was an attempted interrupt by Zad. But the range was just a little bit too short on that shock ray. Now, silver linings here. We do have the Stukov inside the Dragon Knight. I would not think of that as really your ideal player to get in the Dragon Knight, because that does kind of limit how much the rest of your team can push alongside you. since if they start taking damage, they will not be able to be healed up, and it just means once they get below a certain like health threshold, they need to just back up. Doberman still being really aggressive, does have the Iron Skin, is able to get out of there. And, I mean, all things considered, that wasn't a terrible push, but they still have, they basically got the front wall. They're getting out of there without any deaths. But level 20 talent tier is now in for both teams. We have the Black Hole upgrade. I don't even know what that does. Creates sonic storms. Black Hole, I like Black Hole. I've seen it put to good use in brawls and in ranked. Haven't seen a huge value Black Hole in this game just yet, though. Ooh, where is BigBeard going? He's going to go for the Entomb, but his team is not there to support him. In fact, his team is just time stopped by the Leyline Seal, and that will be BigBeard going down. Black Hole is thrown out, but not to much avail. Poe will get rooted. Juanebo is just too far in there, and this could be more. Okay, living bombs are spread, but I don't think that's going to be enough. Certainly a lot of living bombs. Not even having level 20 living bomb, I thought, oh no, the kill's going to happen on Poe as well. Do we see kills traded out? Doberman has to be careful about not spreading that bomb when they are so low on hit points. But at this point, I'm pretty sure this is... Oh, they got to be careful about that damage taken from Zad, though. I think they got to be real careful, though, just about the damage that they take. Because if they play this right, this should just be the game. Jobber's getting really low, though, and eventually Jobber is taken down. That could be what ends up making it not game. I don't know if I really liked the super aggressive positioning behind the fort right there. They're in a position where it very much was in their position, I think, to finish off the game there. But they are actually taking a lot of damage from Zad. They had 5 up. They have Stukov heals, who heals for, like, millions. Doberman gets trapped, but the Protected, by the way, is there to keep him alive, and it's actually going to be trading out a kill on Leoric. It's actually, I don't think, the kill they wanted at this time. So game was looking, it's actually kind of rough here where not only did this game look more even at some point, but earlier on in the game, it actually did look like Roll1 Esports more in the lead. And unfortunately, they're really starting to fall apart here. Bruiser Camp will be picked up. So will the Dragonite. RockYourWorld is in a position, yeah. I mean, he's going to be spotted. There are just so many times. The Medivh providing so much vision. Okay, does have Doberman there. Does eventually throw. Unfortunately, there, the delayed Warbreaker does result in just the Iron Skin being used, but RockYourWorld losing so much health here, and his healer is inside. No, just kidding. That's not his healer inside the Leyline Seal, but he is now isolated. He does get pulled over. Does he stay alive? Indeed, he does. That was a beautiful leap of faith by Zad, but unfortunately, no, that wasn't by Zad, that was by Juanebo. But unfortunately for them, they will still be giving up the Dragonite. And why are they putting their healer inside the Dragonite? I mean, at this point, 21 minutes in, they're going to be going through an open lane. I think they get permanent core damage at a minimum here, and there is a decent chance that they do just finish the game. But I would just like it better if there was someone else inside the Dragonite other than Stukov. Okay, RockYourWorld does get rooted. He does use Warlord's Challenge. He's going to go down. He will be pulled out by Juanebo, so maybe not. But BigBeard will not be so lucky, and he does go down. So that's one hero down. Shielding is gone from the core. And this is looking like it will be Game 2 going in favor of the ABBA Murky Cult. All right. We did see, definitely seemed like, the members of Roll1 Esports, they definitely did quite a bit better in Game 2 than they did in Game 1. In fact, I'm not even entirely sure what happened there, where it was going well for the members of Roll1 Esports, and then things kind of fell apart. Picking up cast on other days, but... Oh, hello.
Hello.
Hello, I was just still talking my stream as I was waiting until you joined us. Thank you for joining us. Of course, congratulations on winning your game. Now, as someone who... I'm sure you've already been asked this question, but, just as someone who's my first time casting you guys, and for anyone who's new to, watching you, tell us a little bit about your team name And how come we didn't see the Abathur Murky?
This is actually...
You can make it brief if you want, since you probably get this question a lot.
Yeah, so like me and one of my friends, HellFire, we play a lot of HOTS, but back then, it was like a practical joke. We were like, what's the silliest like duo combo we could do? So we were like, all right, we could try Abathur Murky. Funny enough, this combo, I think we, like when we played it for a long time, we went like 14-1 with it. So it was like really crazy good. And to this day, we still think it's like actually a viable strategy. Except that the draft, most of the draft is like not good for us to pick it. And then I was like, you know what? Why not create a team based on it? Hopefully we could play games with it. So that's where the name basically came from.
When I think of that, I don't know if I guess I'm just asking, are you familiar with the old but legendary game between Cloud9 and Team DK all the way back from 2015?
Well, I don't think I was watching it 2016. I wasn't watching 2015.
I mean, I'll tell you, that was actually a point. It was in BlizzCon in the semifinals. Korean Team DK against Cloud9, you know, K1 Pro, all those people. And Cloud9 actually did pick Abathur Murky and actually beat Team DK and knocked them out of BlizzCon with Abathur Murky.
Yo, I'm telling you, Abathur Murky, hidden gem. Hidden gem, guys.
I thought maybe since you guys are the Abathur Murky cult that you guys have like watched that match. I mean, if anything, I'm a little bit surprised. That's probably it's probably the only significant Abathur Murky game in the history of competitive Heroes of the Storm, and it's actually pretty crazy that it happened at that level of play on that stage.
I guess I gotta look through the archives and look at it then.
But just to bring it back a little bit to your team, so obviously I did feel, I mean, overall it was a pretty convincing victory overall. Game 1, I think your team was in the driver's seat the whole time, but Game 2 wasn't quite as smooth. They started off a little bit stronger, but eventually things definitely kind of went back in your control. Can you kind of tell us how things were going on for you in Game 2, where you didn't start off as strong, but eventually you kind of took back control of the game?
Well, first of all, we don't never play Dragon Schreier. That was like actually our second time ever. Like even in scrims, we don't ever play this. So it was just a very difficult way for us to adapt because we are not so well versed on the map. It took us a while to realize, like, you know, what's the strong points? What should we be contesting for? What can we do? But once we got the hang of that, we're just like, okay, let's just ignore the map. Let's just look for team fights because that's what we're good at. We're just good at team fighting. We're not so good at like macro play and all that per se, but our team fighting skills are up there. So we're just like, okay, let's just try to force them into fighting us, and that's what we did. They started looking for fights, and we were like, okay, perfect, that's right up our alley, and we just took the dub from them. All
right, sounds good. And I mean, I was, aside from that, like, I was especially worried about the Medivh early on, losing his stacks twice, but eventually we did get all of it.
You know what? I'm gonna have to kick this guy from the team. I'm kidding, no. So minor slip-ups, but you know what? We got it at the end. Early deaths don't really mean too much if you can still get your stacks at the end.
True, yeah. And I did notice that eventually he did have all the stacks. So by the time it was level 19 to 17, you guys had the advantage in kills, and he was stacked. So yeah, at that point, it didn't really matter too much anymore. And so moving forward, what are some teams that you think you might look forward to playing the rest of this season?
Oh, I actually don't even know in the future. I know next we're against Nano Abba, which is a rebranded team of 200 ping, which we've actually scrimmed before. So we're kind of excited to see like what changed, like if they've actually gone better, because last time we played, we kind of like demolished them low key.
It's funny with a name like that. I was gonna ask, like, is that like your sister team or something?
No, but actually, there's one team that I do want to, two teams actually, which is Spooky Ghost and Zombie Eradication Squad. Each that we played in Heroes Lounge earlier this year. We both were 2-1 sets. We beat Spooky Ghost, but we lost to Zombie Eradication Squad. So I'm hoping that next time we play, it's going to be a crushing from us.
You like those crushing victories? Kind of got it tonight.
Yeah, got to crush the morale, crush the spirit. You know,
wish you the best. Getting those 2-0 dominations in NGS, which doesn't exist in Heroes Lounge. Such a shame.
Yeah.
But that's most what I have for questions. Before we do close the interview, though, just going to throw it to you for any other last comments or shout-outs you want to make.
Shout-outs to my team for winning. Let's go. Also, shout-outs to for Roll1. Give us a great time tonight. That's pretty much all I have to say.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you very much for joining me in this interview tonight, and good luck on the rest of the season.
Thank you for casting. Have a great night, man.